Hello, everyone. Welcome to this weekly Zoom Satsang. Each week, we spend a half an hour together. Usually I'm inside, but today it was so hot that I decided to try this outside. So you see some beautiful Portuguese nature behind me. It's a little bit windy, so if it gets really crazy, I might have to move inside. But for now, see? But hopefully you can hear me okay. Can I just have some thumbs up that you can hear me okay, even though it's windy? Okay, good. Yeah. So I always like to start. Well, first of all, our theme today is the freedom. Freedom is who you are. And this actually is the theme of my upcoming retreat in the Netherlands in August. So I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a taste of the theme of that retreat. But before we get going, I'd love to hear how you are, those of you who are on the Zoom. Um, yeah, if you feel to type, it's getting windy now. Um, if you feel to type a few words or a sentence or whatever you feel, how you are in this moment. What is the the landscape in your inner world? What are you bringing here today? How are you feeling? How's your body? How's how's your heart? How's your mind? Yeah. What's what's going on for you? So you can just type a few words in the chat, and then we can kind of have a sense of who is here and what is here in this moment. And of course, it can change as we spend time together or not. Yeah. So I'll just read out. So Nicole, I'm feeling chilled out, relaxed. Nice. Stephanie, longing to have a really good rest. Hmm. Someone else? For those who are just joining now, I just asked if you feel to write a few words or one word about how you are in this moment. So for those who are here on the Zoom, Christina, hot. The body is aching. Yeah, it is hot. Hmm. Okay, well, you're welcome to keep writing as we go on, if you feel. I'll just mute. Yeah. Um, so let's start with just a few minutes of feeling into how we are with our eyes closed and just taking some time to be with whatever is here in the sensations, feelings. Just noticing whatever is here, just the way it is. And noticing if the thinking has any preferences for one experience over another. And we just notice that too. Noticing any tension or stress, contraction. And it might be a very subtle, little tiny sensation, or it could be a really strong, obvious one. And also noticing any expansion, feelings of joy, peace, relaxation. And again, it might be just something very, very subtle or really obvious. And however it is absolutely perfect, just the way it is. Even if the thinking says otherwise, even if the thinking says, I'd like it to be different, or I'd like more of this or less of that. And as we are noticing whatever is here, we can also consciously acknowledge the stillness, the peace that is beyond all experience. So even if the experience is not peaceful or still, even if it is the opposite of peaceful or still, there is this peace despite whatever is here. We can take a few deeper breaths into the belly. Bringing our attention to the sensation of sitting on this seat. Breathing down into contact with the seat and then the ground. Bringing all of our attention here now. And then when you're ready, we can open our eyes. So, for those of you who've just recently just joined, I'm sitting outside and it's a little bit windy, but perhaps if the sound gets too distorted because of the wind, you can just raise your hand and I'll move inside. Yeah, just let me know. But it is so delicious sitting out here, feeling it's quite cool in comparison to inside. Yeah, so our theme today is the freedom. Freedom is who you are. Freedom is who you are. And this is the theme of my upcoming retreat. And this retreat is in the Netherlands in August, and you're welcome to still join me if you feel to. And if you can't join in person, you can still join online if you feel to. Very welcome. And so today I just thought to give a little taste of this theme. Freedom is who you are. So what do I mean by freedom? Well, usually we think of freedom as the experience of freedom, being free to do what we want to do, or go where we want to go, or say what we want to say, experience what we want to experience. We perhaps also think of freedom as freedom from some sort of imprisonment, whether it's physical imprisonment or whether it's emotional, mental, psychological imprisonment. The prisons that we believe in, our beliefs, our ideas, our opinions about how life should be. And usually we think of freedom as a state that we can attain and we can feel. And with that feeling, we might feel a feeling of expansiveness. And when we feel the opposite, feeling of contraction or limitation, restriction, we perhaps assume that I am not free. And the freedom that I'm speaking about here is not a state that is dependent on circumstances or people, places, situations, or even states. It's not a state that could come and go. It is not a freedom from anything. It is, in fact, the opposite is the freedom with everything. Freedom with this experience right now, whatever it is. And when I say freedom is who you are, I'm pointing to our true nature, life itself, our awareness. There are many words we can use for this freedom, who you are. But when I use the word freedom, as opposed to awareness, let's say, or any of the other words I could use, I'm highlighting how there is this freedom that is not dependent on anything. It is radical freedom because it is always who you are, no matter what your experience is, no matter what the situation that you're in, however restricting it might feel, you are radically free anyway, because freedom is your true nature. So, but what I'm speaking about is not a belief, right? So I'm not suggesting that you should believe that you are always free and tell yourself this. I mean, it is a nice thought. It's a better belief, you could say, than a belief that you are not free. And yet, as a belief, it is simply a mental understanding. What I'm speaking about is recognition of this freedom that is never touched by any kind of limitation. So in our daily lives, we might feel a sense of restriction, or that a situation isn't going as we would like. And this can make us feel somehow limited by some kind of painful conditioning, or a reaction, a triggering, because of the circumstances or the person that you're with. And it can feel very constricting. And yet, when we know the freedom that you truly are, even if that constricting feeling is felt in the body, and even if there is a limiting thought story playing out, you know that this is all arising in the freedom that you are. In fact, you are free to feel restriction. And this sounds crazy. Why would you want to be free to feel restriction or imprisonment? But it is true that in our human experience, we do sometimes feel restricted. But when we know our true nature to be freedom, we are free to feel restricted and know that it's never a real restriction. Yeah? And in fact, it seems that freedom itself, or life itself, loves to experience itself as sometimes being restricted, sometimes feeling contracted or limited. In fact, our whole human experience is, in fact, limited. We are limited to time and space in this human experience. We are limited to the wind blowing, and we are limited to, we can't walk through walls, we can't fly without an airplane. We are limited to what our bodies can manage, to our physical experience. We are even limited to our mental state, our emotional state within the human relative play of life. And yet, beyond that, our true nature is always freedom. And so this is the freedom to play at being limited, so that I can experience myself in these limited experiences. And of course, we love to have experiences of more expansion and experiences of freedom. And those experiences are, of course, such gifts, and they are beautiful. But they come and they go, and really, we can't control how much of those kinds of experiences we have. We can try, and there are many practices out there to try to generate more of those kinds of experiences. But essentially, life is happening out of control. And it is all happening in freedom. And absolute freedom, which is our true nature, is for the mind sometimes a little bit too free. Right? It can feel a bit scary that absolute freedom is so free that there are no limitations. And so therefore the mind naturally wants to control and keep some limitations in order to feel safe, to feel a sense of location and limitation, to know, okay, I exist in this confinement here. And that's part of being human, that the mind does this. But again, if you know your true nature to be unlimited freedom, then when the mind plays at being limited, or when there's fear of absolute freedom, you know that this is just simply the play of being human, arising in absolute freedom that is never touched, it's never affected. It's never limited by the playing as if I am limited. And it seems to be the whole play of life is like this, right? We play at being this limited human. I play right now at being this woman, limited to this body here, to this screen, as if that's true. And we play it. But all the time, there is a knowing that freedom can't be contained in this body or this screen or this anything. It is uncontained, always. Only pretending, only playing as if it could possibly be contained. And what a joke. What a joke it is. Yeah. And then the other question, I guess, would be perhaps in your mind is, how can I know myself to be freedom? Yeah. And this question, of course, comes from the mind, and the mind can't know itself to be freedom because the mind, by its very nature, is the tool of limitation, of separation. It plays at being this and not that, right? It plays at being at erecting certain boundaries and walls, and this is natural and normal part of life, part of being human, and it's all again happening in that freedom. And when we know the nature of the thinking, that the thinking will always do that, it will always limit everything. We don't take that so seriously, so meaningfully. We can start to sense what is untouched by the mind. And it's not something that the mind can grasp. It will always slip through your fingers anytime you try to grasp it, because it's not an it. It's not an experience. It's not a state. It's not any kind of object. It is you. And that's why you can't grasp it, because it is always here. You can't lose it. So in recognizing who you are, in recognizing the thinking as what it is, we start to recognize the background to all of that. And we recognize that beyond the thinking is this freedom always. And perhaps it comes through in little glimpses. Perhaps when you're in nature, you might have a moment where the thinking just stops and there's simply stillness. Maybe as you stare into a loved one's eyes and everything else disappears. It's not that that is some kind of special state. It's that in that experience, that temporary experience, there is a moment of recognizing what is not temporary, what is beyond that passing experience of being in nature or looking in a loved one's eyes. You can't grasp that experience because in the next moment there's something else happening. But in those beautiful moments, in those beautiful experiences, we have little glimpses of the freedom that's always here. So it's not about those experiences. It's about acknowledging what is recognized in those experiences. that is, in fact, always who you are, as freedom itself. Mm. Mm. Well, I haven't been completely blown away. So, yeah, so if there's anything you'd like to type in the chat about how you are now, perhaps it's changed, perhaps it hasn't, perhaps there's something that was touched in this time together. I'd love to hear or to read. Yeah, and if in the meantime, if you feel to join the retreat in the Netherlands in August, have a look on the website. All the information is there. Yeah, it's 5 days of very intimate and beautiful exploration together with a group. Yeah, and do I think 2 or 3 sessions a day. Yeah. Nicole, thank you. So it's going up. Freedom, my keyword. I've been reflecting over the truth of this freedom. Yeah. Yeah. Some words resonate more than others, huh? Freedom. Dennis was frustrated, but it fell away. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Um, Stephanie, not easy to take. I understand. Yeah. Christina, yes, this freedom is always here, but words can't express this. Yeah. Words do their best, you know. They sometimes it feels like they dance on the surface of the truth, but sometimes when the words are coming out of this freedom, they can at least point to what they're pointing to. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Lisbeth, you really touched something in me with the explanation of freedom. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Well, we come to the end of our time for today. Thank you very much, everyone. And see you same time, same place. So I don't know if I'll be outside next week, but yeah, on with a different theme next time. Okay. Thank you. Lots of love.